Abraham Maslow was born on April 1st, 1908 to Samuel Maslow and Rose Maslow and was the oldest of 7 children. Maslow's parents were Jewish immigrants from Russia and were the only Jewish family in Maslow's neighborhood. Because of this, Maslow was lonely for the majority of his childhood. Maslow's home life did not help matters, as Maslow and his father were constantly at odds, with the latter pushing his son to excel in areas of no interest and regarded his son as ugly and stupid, and at one point voiced this opinion publicly. As a result, this caused Maslow to view himself as ugly and stupid. Rose Maslow arguably treated her son worse than her husband, causing Maslow to want no interaction with her at all, seeing her as insensitive and unloving, even to her own family. This perception was well-founded, as Maslow's mother kept a lock bolted on the refrigerator, only removing it when it suited her. One time, Maslow found 2 kittens on the street and took them home with him. When his mother found them, she smashed the kittens' heads right in front of the young Maslow. Needless to say, Maslow did not attend her funeral when she died. On a brighter note, on December 31st, 1928, Maslow married Bertha Goodman, his longtime sweetheart and cousin. Maslow regarded his marriage to Bertha as the beginning of his life. The Maslow had 2 daughters and were happily married until death. Regarding Maslow's academic career, he enrolled in the City College of New York at the age of 17. Maslow initially attempted to study law to please his father, but quit after 2 weeks after realizing that law wasn't his passion. After transferring from school to school searching for what motivated him, Maslow finally found that psychology was what drove him, and earned his BA in 1930, MA in 1931, and his PhD in 1934. During his studies, Maslow got the chance to work under Edward Thorndike, known for his studies of operant conditioning, and Harry Harlow, his doctoral advisor, who was famous for his experiments with baby monkeys.
Maslow's theory mainly focuses on what he calls a hierarchy of needs. He developed his hierarchy based on humanistic views, believing that psychologists up to this time had not focused on normal people. Maslow's theory looks at the needs of the whole person: physical, social, emotional, intellectual, and aesthetic. His first 2 tiers deal with our physical self, beginning with our most basic physiological needs, such as food, water, warmth, and rest. The second tier focuses on our need for safety and security. Moving up to our social and emotional self, Maslow addresses our needs for love, belongingness, self-esteem, and a feeling of accomplishment. Finally, Maslow reaches our intellectual and aesthetic self, discussing the ideas of self-actualization. Self-actualization is one of the most discussed portions of Maslow's theory, and is one's ability to reach his or her full potential and become all that he or she is capable of becoming. Maslow also suggested that humans are the only species capable of reaching the highest tiers. For example, you're not going to see your dog going for a PhD. It's also important to note that we can experience short periods of our needs not being met, for example being hungry or tired, and still move up to a higher tier. Our needs can be organized into 2 groups: deficiency needs and growth needs. Our textbook defines deficiency needs as needs that energize people to meet them if they are unfulfilled. These can be thought of as the 4 bottom tiers of Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow suggests that one cannot move on to the higher needs, known as growth needs, until they have fulfilled their deficiency needs. For example, if a person is starving, his or her first priority is to find food to fill their stomach, not seek after intellectual pursuits. Growth needs include intellectual achievement, aesthetic appreciation, and self-actualization. Contrary to deficiency needs, growth needs are never satisfied. Our textbook explains this concept by stating that as we develop a greater understanding of a certain area, such as literature, our interest in it increases rather than decreases. While Maslow's hierarchy finds strength in that it makes sense and explains many aspects of our lives, it does have its fair share of criticisms. First, Maslow's definitions are backed by little research, and his descriptions aren't always consistent with human behavior. Second, as is the case with many of the other theorists we have studied, Maslow's studies dealt mostly with educated white males. While he did study females, they were only a small portion of his sample. Regardless of gender, the biographies in his case studies were almost always subjective. Another criticism against Maslow's theory is that it is difficult to test self-actualization, and that this idea and others of Maslow's are too abstract. Finally, parts of Maslow's theory have been falsified, such as the idea that our lower needs must always be met before we can obtain higher needs, such as intellectual pursuits and self-actualization. Although it is important for our lower needs to be met, it is not impossible to move up. Counterexamples that are brought to the table are those such as people living in poverty and starvation that are still able to function at a higher level, where they experience love and a sense of belongingness. Another common example is that of the great artists throughout history, such as Vincent van Gogh, who lived a tragic, impoverished life, but were still able to reach great achievements or even self-actualization. Maslow's theory is applied in the classroom by reminding us that the deficiency needs of our students must be met in order for them to succeed in school. For example, if a student is undernourished or sleep deprived, they may be unable to focus on their schoolwork. In addition to physiological needs, our students must also feel both physically and emotionally safe at school. If a student is being bullied or in some way feels unsafe, uncomfortable, or unaccepted at school, he or she will likely be seeking relief for those needs, halting them from fully meeting their learning needs. Most importantly, we as future teachers need to remember the human side of teaching. Our students have needs just as we do. As we become in tune with our students and their needs, we will be better able to help them fulfill their deficiency needs and move on to increasing in their growth needs.